Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be and whenever you may be watching this replay. My name is Lois Kofi. I am co-founder of Virtual Global Coaching, which I'm super excited to be here in Southern California. I have my amazing partner and who's also going to be doing the training today over in India. So it's evening over there, Deepak Verma. And today he's going to be talking about a very, very timely topic. As we record this, we are in the midst of the coronavirus of 2020, and everyone is sequestered in their homes. I just heard on the news this morning that there's countless job layoffs, people on unemployment. Cell phone companies are allowing you to keep your service on even if you can't pay your bill. I mean, there's some serious signs of recession and a lot of fear. And there's a lot of people that probably could have benefited from this call 6 or 12 months ago. And how do you prevent that kind of financial ruin? How do you future-proof your business? And of course, focus on your finances, which in America, I don't know what it's like in India. In America, people don't like to talk about money. It's actually, depending on your background, religious preferences, things like that. It's in my household, I grew up with, you never talk about it. You just don't ask questions and you leave it alone, which is not great financial planning as you grow up. But I'm excited to turn the baton over here to you, Deepak, and learn from you today. So thank you for this amazing, timely topic.
Likewise, Louis, thank you so much for this short introduction. And just like the US, even Asia is going through a similar downturn. A lot of economic recession is likely to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. And in fact, very interestingly, met an MD of a very large company in India, and he told me that the world that will emerge post June, July is going to be a different world. So that is a very unique thought, that he had, because there's so much of churn that is happening in the world that something totally new is going to emerge, and we have to be ready to adapt to the new world, because people will have changed their mindsets. A lot of things would have closed down, and as you rightly mentioned, layoffs will be huge in India too, and a lot of small businesses will have closed down. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of came up with this particular topic, and it's a topic very close to my heart, and it's future-proofing your business and finances. And I'm going to dive straight into trying to understand what are the factors which can really future-proof our business and our finances. Of course, needless to say, we need to have a calm mind. So I'm not going to touch upon this because I've done this in a separate session in this particular group on heartfulness. But this is the website, and in case anybody wants to again go into it, this is the right time. You have a lot of time. You're sitting at home and wondering what to do next. This is a good time to try to understand the basic facets of introspection. So while we cannot go outside, it's time to go inside. But the topic today is very direct, and I'm going to go straight into something called as managing money. And just like you mentioned earlier, even in India, we don't talk about money. Families don't talk about money. Parents don't talk about money to the children. Many times, even husbands and wives don't talk about money to each other. It's such a sacrosanct topic, but one of the key things which drives all of our lives. So I've come across this particular model. It's a very famous model from T. Harv Eker, and it's called as a 6-jar finances. And I've personally been using this model. I know many of you must have seen this model, but I just thought I'll give a very different perspective on how we really need to tackle this particular model. So he mentions, that to split up, whatever you earn, it could be $1 million, it could be $1,000, it could be $100. It could be, anything from small to big, but it needs to be split up into 6 different jars. And each jar has its own specific advantage and specific need. So if you look at the first jar, it's actually called as necessities. Now it's very important that whatever money you get has not to be thrown out to the necessities. You have to curb your necessities to ensure that it's only 55% of what you earn in a month. Now this is the first step, so it's a more of a factor of discipline. And there's a saying in India which says that only spread your legs as much as there is carpet. Don't go beyond the carpet, only walk around on the carpet. So many times, thanks to credit cards, thanks to loans, thanks to various other financial schemes, we seem to be using a lot of invisible funds. When I say invisible, illusory funds for our basic needs and necessities, and thereby getting into a trap of a loan and a loan, and going on. So we have somehow to come to this particular point where we just spend for our necessities. And I've been personally trying to follow this in a fairly large extent in the last 7 8 years. And I'll give the story of mine, how and why I did it. Just 50% on it, and it works. It works if you really work on it. You can, reduce your lifestyle if necessary to ensure that you meet this particular guideline. And then comes the next 10%, which is on the financial freedom account. Now, this is your corpus. And if you really work on this well, you can build a very strong corpus. So this is the corpus which you're not going to touch. You're only going to work. You're only going to get the interest from this corpus, which will again feed into your necessities. So this is a passive income which will be generated from the financial freedom account, and this could be long-term deposits. It could be, in India we have pension funds. You have a lot of freedom accounts, even deposits at various corporates and banks, etc., which give a fairly good secured return, and which ensures that you have on constant ongoing flux of passive income coming in, which beats into your which feeds into your necessities. So this is the second ring. And let me give you a story around this. Way back in 2012, my father-in-law expired. Now, this is not a sad story. Okay, the reason why I'm telling this particular story is he lived his life as a high school teacher, which is not a very and in a remote city in India. It's not a very high-paying job. It's a very, very kind of a moderate and low-paying job. So he lived this particular life in this as a high school teacher, and probably was there working for 40, 50 years, etc. And he retired, of course, and then he expired in 2012, and which is when I had to go to the city and take over the finances and move it to my mother-in-law's name. So, and that's when I had to actually, look into the finances, and I was shocked. I was really shocked and surprised that despite living such a meager or a lower and middle class kind of an income, he had managed to save a huge amount of money. It was something I couldn't imagine it actually. I mean, I assumed it would be just a few thousand or $10,000 or $20,000, etc., that he would have, but it was fairly big. And then I tried to understand what is, because then I had all the finances in my hand and I had all the records of what he was doing in the last 5 years. So I spent that time, because I had to spend time with the banks and all. I spent my time to understand what exactly was he doing, because of course we don't discuss finances in a lifetime. So I never discussed this with him when he was alive. So I had to make a guesswork, and I just wanted to understand what exactly was he doing. And I realized that it is a power of very small deposits, extremely small deposits, that he would make. It would be even as small as $8, $10, or something of the sort, very small deposits he went on making every 20 days, 30 days. And I was seeing the records, and it was quite, a shocker to me. And I remember in 2010, I had got a fairly large incentive, from when I was working in a corporate in Hewlett Packard. And, as sure as eggs are eggs, I just drained it all off. Okay, because I used to never think, be on savings, and it was just, luxury. And I made a couple of trips to Egypt and Singapore, and and it was, kind of washed off. But after 2012, I think that was a turning point in my life of finances, if you may say so. And his name was Virendra Sahai from Lucknow. It really changed my life, because then I realized that it can be done. If he can do it, I can do it. And I was earning possibly, 15, 20 times, what he was earning at the end. And that's when I started off my journey on FFA. I wanted to give this long story because I know a lot of you will think that it's not possible, but it is possible. And it took me just 3 years, three and a half years, a very dedicated effort, because we keep getting those incentives, in such corporates, and it's only a matter of discipline of how to manage the finances and how to move things into. So I inherited that, small, deposits that he had, and I built up on it, and I really fairly built up on it, and which enabled me to leave my job in 2015, and then move on to this. Very unsure life of an entrepreneur, but of course it's all working on well. But that's the basic background on the financial freedom account, which I encourage each of you to have it. The next 10% is something called as long-term savings, which we need to put. It's a jar, so you need to kind of put it. So it can actually be physically put, or it can be put notionally. But when you need to make a long-term project, maybe painting a house, buying a car, or something which is very long, or going on a vacation. So your yearly vacation should come from the 10% of LTSS, never on credit card. You have to have this 10% stocked up, slowly but surely, and with that you need to go on a vacation. And believe me, the vacation is small, doesn't matter, you can still enjoy it very well, and you'll have a lot of peace of mind. You just use this 10%, and it works out to a decent amount of money if you do it month on month on your finances. Somehow nature and the universe also conspires, and you end up getting your good long-term savings around it. The fourth one is education, most important. And me and Lewis do this. We invest a lot into ourselves, into education. I personally go for a lot of programs. I keep enhancing my skills. And in the last 4 years, despite not having a job, I have invested a lot of my finances, possibly much more than 10% actually, into education. And education of ourselves is the biggest resource and biggest gift that we can give each of us. And again, I urge each and every one of you to invest into your own education in some manner or the other. Every 3 months, every 4 months, you need to hone your skills, because you need to become the best version of yourselves. You need to take a gut feel, go for some the right courses, and believe me, learning is something you'll never regret. You'll never regret this. You can go for multiple, sessions anywhere, and whatever you learn, it will somehow stick to you. You'll connect the dots back later, and it'll really, stick onto you. So, for example, I invested myself into Toastmasters almost 4 years ago. And now I'm no longer there, but I was there for almost 3.5 years, and became the president, and also an advanced communicator, and also won a lot of competitions. Learned a lot very unconsciously, but that has been the basis of one of the flagship online programs that I run called Speakology, the art of speaking well. Because I just realized, after going through all that, that there are a lot of secrets which I learned in Toastmasters, which I could help people learn. And I run this online course on Speakology, which is running fairly well. So education is something which is not to be looked down upon. It's something that you must take care. The next 10% is something called as play. So believe me, these percentages have come to me only recently, but I've been unconsciously following it for the last 7 to 8 years. So the next 10% is play, and play is a little different from the long-term, savings. So play is to be every month, 10%, you could change it between 5 or 10%, is where you really, the right word is, you you invest yourself in a playful manner. For example, you go to a restaurant, or you go to a small mini micro vacation. So what's the right word? I'm not really getting it. So you spoil yourself. Yeah. So the 10% is the right word. I mean, I've kind of gone to the extreme, but you really need to spoil yourself, just at 10%. That's it. Nothing more than that. So don't go beyond, because somewhere within you, you need to give respect to the fact that you are doing your best, and you need to give that 10% of yourself for doing something which you love to do. It could be the movies, it could be the small, as I mentioned, a small outing. It could be going to your favorite restaurant, and enjoying yourself, and you do it without thinking, because you're only doing it for 10%. Even if you're earning just $1,000, doesn't matter. 10%, just $100. You can go somewhere small and have something there. The last 5% is something called as give, and this is critical. Giving is the key, and this is what gives meaning to the rest of our lives. So give not just in terms of money, also in terms of your time. So it all comes in together. It could be, the 5% could be used, possibly even to drive to various places and possibly give free education to the underprivileged. Just give an example, or I volunteer at the Heartfulness Institute. So the 5% should be, it gives a lot of happiness. So it's very critical that you do something which does not give you any direct benefit, but give somebody else. And it should, of course, not be a full-time profession, else you'll end up being into charity yourself. So just 5% has to be kind of dedicated to giving, and this kind of completes this model of the 6 jar finances. Before I go on to business, just want to take a pause and see anybody has any questions around it, or shall I move ahead?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just to clarify, and thank you so much. I love T. Harbecker, and I get his emails, and have attempted the jar thing with myself, but I really want to do it with our kids over the course of this homeschooling experience that we have. Did you say, and forgive me if I missed it, is this out of every paycheck or stream of income that you get, that you delineate and section them off, right?
Yes. Every paycheck. So that's the only thing.
Awesome. And not that I know you're not a financial advisor, but do you, because I know money coaches and I know financial advisors, we have a lot of them in BNI. Do you find that many financial advisors follow the same philosophy, or is...
Actually, I don't think they focus on the play and the education and the give. So the financial advisors will only talk about the financial freedom account and the long-term savings, and they'll try, but nobody will educate you on the other three, the necessities and education. This is very wholesome. It's a very wholesome thing, which includes volunteering. It includes, as I mentioned, spoiling yourself, giving back to yourself, the play thing. It includes investing in yourself for training yourself. So it's a very holistic approach, which I found very good.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm wondering, my last question, and then you can move on, is because some people are really big on giving 10%, or some, is there much other than like probably the top three? I think those have to be solid, right, and stay the same. Absolutely. Is there any fluidity with the bottom three?
Yeah, there is. So sometimes people can manage the necessities within 50%, and they move that 5% down to give or to play or whatever. So there's a lot of, it's only a benchmark. I think each person can make their own changes, depending on what they get and give, so it's all up to them.
I think it's
Cool.
awesome, and I think if there was a way to streamline this into school systems, we wouldn't be in this financial crisis that people are in, because we've only been going through this process with not even a whole month yet
Yes.
with the coronavirus, and people are already not able to pay their rent for April.
I understand.
And I've been there, and multiple times, and I wish I would have had this. That's all I got to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Luz. And that leads us to the next one of trying to future-proof a business. And I'll keep it very brief. I just have 8 questions, and this is based on uncovering your superpowers. And these are questions which you can take time off, and you can go through this video, pause it, and start asking these questions. If once you get the answer to these questions, you will understand what are the real strengths that you have around you, and which can uncover your superpowers, and hence will make your business so strong that it will be very difficult to budge with or without corona. And one of the first questions that is what are you ridiculously amazingly good at? And it could be anything. It could be uh, stitching, it could be cooking, it could be singing, it could be whatever it is. You just need to make a list of various things that you're possibly good at, and that is the spend around 5 to 7 minutes and try to list down a lot of things, and each of us have something that we are really really good at. So that's the first step on the first question. And the second one is and this I personally do this. I sometimes interview my clients, and so I normally tell them that I have a coach who's asking me this question, so they answer this very very passionately. So whatever clients say they love most about you, and you'll be very surprised when you hear the answers. I encourage each of you to go ahead and talk to some of your clients and just ask them this question. You can just say, hey, I'm a coach in India, and he had a few questions, that he wanted to put across to my clients. So are you okay to answer it? And they'll always say yes. Okay, so and then you just ask a few of these questions. What do your clients say they love most about you, and just see the answers that you get. And I'd be happy to kind of hear what you have to say. The third one is thinking of a peak experience that you had recently. That gives something which is a combination of inspiration and the kind of peakness that you have within you. And the fourth one is the ideal person whom you'd like to work with and why. And this again gives a lot of depth into the kind of person you are, and it will kind of lead you to your target market or your ideal client whom you'd like to work with and why. So these are 4 basic questions that each person should ideally go through. It's very simple questions, and but if you take around a couple of hours and take some time to think about these and the next 4 questions, you'll get a very in-depth knowledge of what your superpowers are. And that leads us to the next one, which is deeper questions. And the first one of them is describe a time you got into trouble and how you got out of it. So these are questions I've devised, thanks to my experience in Healify. So I try to go a little deeper than the conscious state and try to get into, your adversity quotient. So, you will understand how exactly one behaves. Very important question. How were you recognized as a kid? So were you the class clown, or were you the leader, or were you the whatever it is, how were you recognized as a kid? So this again, germinates a little bit from my inner child healing that I do. And this is again a powerful question, which you can ask yourselves. What do other people tell you is your biggest quirk or idiosyncrasy? So this is again very important. Just go into it, introspect yourself. All these are very deep questions, can't be answered in 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. You possibly might think of it for days on end before you come up with some answers, because this is something which is your core, something which is something very deep in you. It could be discipline, it could be loyalty, it could be undying faith to a particular, it could be anything. So what really is, your biggest quirk or idiosyncrasy? And you'll come up with answers, around you. And extremely powerful. I do this. Ask three people who are very close to you. One could be a spouse, one could be, your son or daughter, one could be your father or parents, very close to you. Ask them very close to you, and call them and just say again, give the same reason, between you and me. I just tell them, hey, I have a coach, somewhere in US. Her name is Louis. I meant to even say that, and she has this question. I just need to fill it up and give it off. So I get to answer it, and they say yes, okay, fine, and they ask this question. So now they're very seriously answering it. It's important that there's not a casual approach to the answers. You have to actually take a pen and paper or a laptop and say, hey, I really need to set this because I need to send it to somebody. And, ask this question. And, what am I good at? So it gets them thinking, and they'll give very good answers. Okay. Try it out. And in fact, what I suggest is, you try out these questions and you can connect back to me. I'm more than happy. I run the program called Unify, and which is getting deep into people and trying to reprogram people for success. So these 8 questions can really uncover a lot within you. I'll be happy to read through your answers, and we could have a short call or a discussion to see how we can make the best that you can ever be. So with this, I come to end of this very short session. It's exactly 30 minutes. So just want to take the next few minutes to see if there are any questions or something that you reflect on this particular, both either business or finances.
Those are powerful questions.
Thank you, Louis. So this is the first 4, which is
now my birthday.
4, and then these are the next 4.
I have a question for those of the people that are in our coaching group. Can we, do you mind uploading these slides into the private Facebook group?
Absolutely. Perfect. I can do that. Not an issue.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. That was amazing. Like I was reminded of so many powerful things. We've got kids activity going on in the background here. So any other closing thoughts, Deepak?
No, these are trying times, very changing times in the world today. The first times that something is affecting each and every person in the world at the same time, almost like an alien attack. You speak to people in Australia, Singapore, US, Africa. I mentioned, I spoke to a friend of mine in Africa, Europe, China. My brother's in China. It's exactly the same story. So, very trying times, and we just need to kind of, introspect. This is a good time, to internally coach yourself or hire a coach and try to see if you can really make the best version of yourself.
Oh, awesome. And next week, we are going to be talking about working from home. When you have children, when you have, external chaos, because again, it's a choice. If you choose chaos within, then it's going to make things a lot difficult. So how to keep moving forward when you're working from home, and I look forward to covering that topic next week. Thank you so much again, Deepak, and to our viewers, stay well, be safe, be smart, and stay inspired.
Don't worry, you.